PewDiePie's Minecraft series is arguably one of the most influential Let's Plays on YouTube, and it has been credited by multiple people as causing Minecraft's recent massive resurgence. That being said, it also has a surprising amount of story and lore woven into it, and it can sometimes be a little confusing to understand the lore of the entire series as well as its story to the fullest. So without further ado, let's jump into a complete breakdown of the lore and story behind PewDiePie's Minecraft series. Part 1. A simple start. Our story starts with Felix loading into his world named Broland. As if destiny intended it, the first thing Felix saw was a group of horses, one of which would go on to be Joergen 1. But more on him in a minute. Felix then went about playing like a normal Minecraft player, and even finding diamonds in his very first episode. He also went on to build his first house around a birch tree, which would later be called the Tree of Life. Felix also lures and traps an unassuming herd of sheep, one of whom would become arguably one of the most important characters in the series, Water Sheep. Water Sheep then entered his natural domain, water, and remained trapped in a corner of Felix's farm, where he would remain for the rest of his days throughout the series. Felix also managed to tame his first horse, Joergen 1, at around this time. These were the golden days of Felix's series, when he barely knew of hardship and loss, where he played the game without a care in the world. That would all change, however, in Episode 5. Episode 5 of Felix's series marked the end of the simple Minecraft series he had been playing in thus far. First, he was tricked by his fans into sleeping into the Nether, which led to him losing faith in even them. He then suffered his first loss of the series, Joergen 1. Felix took Joergen to the Nether on a fan tip, thinking that Joergen would love to see the sights of the Nether. Little did he know that Joergen 1 would never return. When coming back through the portal, Joergen began to suffocate, and Pewds, inexperienced and panicking, was too slow and too inexperienced to save him. Felix mourned Joergen by building him a shrine and offering his shrine melons, and went on to tame and domesticate his new horse, Joergen 2. Part 2. Loss. Episodes 6 and 7 summarize the next period of the series well, with the introduction of two new characters to the series. Boat Cow and Pew's best friend and longest surviving pet Sven are these two characters. Episode 7 is also the first time we see how Joergen's death affected Felix, as he starts to insult and threaten Water Sheep, slowly starting to descend down the slippery slope that we see for the rest of this part of the series. Felix wasn't, however, completely emotionless. He almost drowned himself multiple times to save Joergen in episode 9, the same episode in which Sven got trapped underwater by a bubble column. Felix was stricken at this point. His best friend was trapped underwater and he had no idea how to help him. He did eventually manage to save Sven, but this moment of pure anxiety and terror at the thought of losing Sven was the moment which sold his viewers on his love for the Minecraft dog, which also showed Felix as a character in this series and not its god, because even he was susceptible to losing those who he truly cared for. It also played an important role in humanizing Felix, especially in light of his imminent misdeeds. Misdeeds that would change the course of this series. Misdeeds that started with Felix building a prison for Water Sheep. After building this prison, Felix did, once again, reaffirm his humanity to the audience by raiding an ocean monument in between building this prison and using all the gold he obtained from the raid to upgrade and improve Joergen 1's shrine.
Now what am I gonna do with that gold, you might ask, Sven? Well, it's for an old friend.
His harassment of Water Sheep did not stop, however, and he eventually started using pistons to torment Water Sheep, and eventually ended up murdering him by suffocating him in a magma block. The death of Water Sheep was, yes was, and still is, the most influential death of the entire series. This possibly otherworldly being ascended to some sort of divine state after his death, and would manipulate Felix from behind the scenes for the rest of the series. Pewds immediately regretted killing Water Sheep, and took out his rage by killing multiple other animals in various horrific ways, animals that became the first sacrifices Felix would make to Water Sheep. He also built Water Sheep a shrine of emeralds around the place where he once resided, thus bringing this part of the series to a close. Part 3. Fallout. After the death of Water Sheep, Felix raided the ocean monument again, and lost Dinnerbone underwater while doing so. He also found a Woodland Explorer map near where Water Sheep once resided. Having recently lost Joergen, Felix thought Watersheep had used his divine power to abduct Joergen and to teach Felix a lesson, so he raided the woodland mansion to try and rescue his equine friend. He did not find Joergen in the woodland mansion proper. However, after a successful raid, Watersheep ostensibly took pity on Felix and gave Joergen 2 back to him. Felix then went on to find another pet in the jungle, a parrot called Klaus, or later, IKEA bird number 1. Felix then went on to build a church for Watersheep, which would later even become inhabited by a council, but this could not protect him. Watersheep was determined to take Joergen 2 from Felix, and take him he did. His first attempt on Joergen's life was foiled, as he tried to suffocate him in the walls of his stable. Although this failed, Watersheep persisted, and he ended up suffocating Joergen 2 while he rode in a minecart. This death devastated Felix, Sven, and IKEA Bird. Felix built Joergen 2 a shrine of diamond blocks, promising to fill it up completely when he had obtained the diamonds to do so. Emotionally distraught, he felt that he no longer deserved a horse, and tamed himself a replacement mule, Bernie the Beast. Bernie was a short-lived legend. When Felix attempted to best a raid while riding him, he was, sadly, lost in battle. Felix also built a shrine to Bernie out of dirt, saying that was what Bernie would have wanted. He wasn't cheapskating on a shrine, no. How dare you even suggest something like that? Anyway, on with the tale. This loss only further solidified Pew's belief that he did not deserve a horse or even a mule, and thus we were introduced to another important character of the series, Peepeepoopoo. Peepeepoopoo the pig, I should clarify. Felix did then, however, launch an expedition and find Dinnerbone again, and on a similar expedition, Felix also found a jungle and tamed a green parrot, and he trapped him in a cage of leaves, promising to come back for him later. Now keep in mind when Felix trapped this poor bird for now. It'll be a great time metric to think back to later. It was also on a similar expedition that Felix discovered and tamed IKEA bird number 2. IKEA bird number 2 was a parrot who was blue and yellow, similar to IKEA bird number 1, but since he was dark, he was considered the true IKEA bird. Felix then went on to breed an army of pigs, with Peepeepoopoo as their leader. This is also the same episode that we see that Peepeepoopoo can transfer his consciousness to any pig in the same realm as his current form. Okay, quick breaking the lore because this sounds ridiculous, but this is the only canonical explanation for Peepeepoopoo's future actions. Anyway, the reason for said army of pigs was that Felix wanted to use a trident imbued with channeling to summon lightning and convert them into pigmen. Pigmen who he hoped to use as soldiers in his battle against the Wither. In the consequent episodes, Felix also met a tiny baby slime, who he named Rolf, while mining. This friendship was, however, short-lived, as Pewds then killed Rolf in the same episode with a sweep of his sword while fighting a zombie. After Rolf's unfortunate demise, Felix offered worship to the Council of Watersheep, and tamed himself a new horse, seemingly having atoned his previous sins and worthy of a trusty steed once more. Thus, Joergen 3 was tamed, and he is, as of writing the script, still alive. Pewds also built a signature of his series around this time, called the Frick Chamber. Unspeakable things happened here, and they're not important to the story, thank God. Felix then prayed to Watersheep once more, and thus summoned a thunderstorm, which he used to convert his pig army into pig men. With this important aspect of preparation out of the way, he went on to summon the Wither boss and fight it. This battle was tense, with pigmen tanking most of the hits, while Felix wailed on the Wither. Peepeepoopoo, in his pigman form, managed to transfer his consciousness to another pig at the last second, barely saving himself from being converted into a Wither rose. After the fight, Felix found the new incarnation of Peepeepoopoo and saddled him, and then used the nether star which the Wither had dropped to craft a beacon. He set this beacon up to send its beam up through IKEA Tower, with the base for the beacon being made out of the blocks which had previously made up the shrines to Joergen 1, Joergen 2, and Watersheep, and he dedicated the beacon to these 3 lost friends as well. Now, for those of you who don't know what IKEA Tower was, it was a build he made in one of his previous episodes, and it wasn't very notable at the time. However, it would go on to become an increasingly important monument in Pewds' world, and this was the first time any real additions were made to it after it was built and labelled with banners. It was also during one of these episodes that a pillager, while riding in a minecart, killed IKEA bird number 2. Pewds did manage to chase down the villager and gain retribution, but the damage had been done. IKEA bird 2, or the real IKEA bird, had been killed. Part 4. Rebuilding. The next chunk of the series got off to a saddening start, with IKEA Bird pricking himself or themselves to death on a cactus while Felix explored a desert village. Pewds did, however, manage to save a single feather from IKEA Bird's remains, and he used this feather to craft an arrow which we'll see later in the series. The only explanation for this is that Felix had reverted to a save, or that Watersheep somehow revived IKEA Bird in between his first death and his second death, and decided that his second death would be a more permanent one. While mourning this loss, Felix also built a memorial of torches to all the pigmen who sacrificed themselves in the fight against the Wither, placing one torch for each pigman who died during the fight. Wanting to turn over a fresh leaf, Felix decided to tear down his old house and start construction of a new, larger house. Felix also summoned and defeated an otherworldly demon this episode, a clone of himself. Felix then reverted to an old save to revive IKEA Bird. However, he subsequently killed both IKEA Bird and DJ Mushroom, which was a mushroom he had saved while exploring, by hitting them with lightning. This loss was not too emotionally taxing on Felix, as he had already lost IKEA Bird in his previous save. He then went on an expedition to a taiga biome and tamed a new friend, a fox named Bengt. He also tamed another dog, and this dog ended up getting into a relationship with Sven. Thus Felix named him Sven's BF, or Sven's boyfriend. In a wholesome end to the episode, Sven also ended up getting married to his boyfriend, just a few weeks before Felix himself would get married to his fiancée in real life, Marcia. After this episode, the Minecraft series was put on temporary hiatus, while Pewds got married and went on his honeymoon. Part 5. The End? After returning from his honeymoon, the first thing that Felix noticed was that the head member of the Council of Watersheep had turned red. This color change is what one can only interpret as anger, as the council subsequently tried to kill Felix by dropping him into water. The reason for this is unknown, though Felix did speculate that it may be because he didn't get married in the Church of Watersheep. Story aside, the in-game reason for this is that evokers, a new mob that was added in the Village and Pillage update, are able to turn blue sheep red as an Easter egg. Anyway, on with the story. Felix then got a companion for Dinnerbone and built him an aquarium, as Dinnerbone, being a skeleton horse, was able to breathe underwater. He then went on to find Peepeepoopoo again and revive him. Why? Because Felix planned to fight the Ender Dragon, and he had previously promised that Peepeepoopoo would be with him as he killed said beast.
That's right, Sven, Peepeepoopoo. We're gonna beat the Ender Dragon together.
And then, as Felix stood, planning next to a filled end portal, Peepeepoopoo, filled with a sudden impulse put in his head by some sort of deity, possibly even Watersheep, pushed Felix into the End. Trapped in the End with a bloodthirsty dragon with little to no preparation, Felix's situation was dire. However, he had one saving grace. He had an ender chest in his inventory. He had, apparently, prepared a little in said ender chest, and so managed to carry out the fight in sort of the way he had intended. He initially tried to use snow golems and boats to try and fight the dragon, but these proved useless in hurting or harming the actual dragon. They did, however, help in trapping and distracting Endermen as Felix fought the beast. Initially, Pewds was killed by the dragon midway through destroying the end crystals. This let him return to his base and stock up on materials to re-enter the fray, only more prepared this time. When he returned to the end portal, Felix took revenge on Peepeepoopoo by pushing him into the portal before jumping in himself. On re-entering the end, Felix started riding on Peepeepoopoo, trying to ride into battle with his friend. This, however, would not come to pass. Felix got off Peepeepoopoo for some reason, which caused both him and Peepeepoopoo to fall to their deaths into the void. The catch here is that while Felix could respawn, there were no pigs in the end dimension for Peepeepoopoo to transfer his consciousness into, meaning that this death was the final death for Peepeepoopoo. I'm so glad I don't have to say Peepeepoopoo again, because this is already ridiculous as it is. But fueled with anger at the loss of Peepeepoopoo, Pewds fought and killed the Ender Dragon, and also managed to land the killing blow with the arrow of IKEA Bird. With this fight, another chapter of this series was closed on a triumphant, if slightly bittersweet ending, as Felix celebrated and mourned with a fireworks show. Part 6. Exile. This part of the series starts off innocently enough. Not much happened in the beginning, save for Felix meeting a water chicken while exploring. Subsequent to this, however, Felix did something that would force him into exile out of pure shame. He killed Sven's boyfriend while trying to give him a trampoline ride. Panic-filled and grief-stricken, Felix entered a self-imposed exile to try and escape his actions, saying that he could not be trusted to own pets. He emigrated to his summer house and started a new life as a beet farmer. Initially, it looked like Felix had gone mad, with Beetroot talking to him while in his inventory.
Hey there, Felix. No! How you doing? Shut!
Didn't you know? Only planted Beetroot with divine power can talk. Anyway, we are then introduced to the main character for this chunk of the series, Faggy. Remember that water chicken I mentioned at the start of this chunk? That was Faggy, who revealed to Felix that he had been sent by water sheep. Even though Faggy said he had been sent by water sheep, Felix did not trust him, and even rejected him outright. He tried to torture Faggy, thinking he was an agent of evil, eating raw chicken in front of him and forcing him to sleep outside the house. Faggy was not deterred, however, and even managed to bake Felix a cake, which he gave him in the morning. Felix did not accept this gift, however, instead trying to torture Faggy with bells and redstone. Incredibly, Faggy liked the song, even calling it Poppin' after 3 bells were on. I don't know, maybe he's a KSI fan, I don't know.
These niggas hating, I'm popping. Rock out with the Drake while I'm rocking. I sent a deal and then put up a song and yeah.
Anyway, Felix then adopted a new method to torture Faggy, hanging him from a pole while setting the ground below him on fire. Even as he was about to burn up, Faggy remained strong, and Felix gave up when he saw that Faggy had managed to set something nearby on fire. Get ready for some big brain action here, by the way. Felix, frustrated, decided the only way to truly break Faggy, who was a bird and can fly, would be to drop him from the top of his new base, which he had converted into a tower. As Faggy dropped, or should I say, glided down, Felix jumped off with him, and as he flew down, he saw the thing that Faggy had set on fire was a burning netherrack message reading, "I love you." This message seemed to be that which finally convinced Felix that Faggy was trustworthy and, desperately looking for a companion, he finally accepted Faggy as a friend.
I'm so sorry, Faggy. Will you please forgive me?
Having gained Felix's trust, Faggy asked Felix for a diamond, which he was given. This was Felix's mistake. It was a trap. Watersheep had sent Faggy to Felix as a sort of punishment, a way for Felix to experience the same pain which he had wrought upon Watersheep while Watersheep was still alive. When Faggy picked up the diamond, he entered his true form as a massive superpowered chicken with insane powers and health, like being able to shoot Steves out of his hands. I don't know the logic behind that, by the way. Watersheep works in mysterious ways. Felix and Faggy ended up having an epic duel, out of which Felix came out victorious and a stack of chicken richer. This emotional roller coaster, filled with disgust, loss, betrayal, and hope, seemed to spur something inside Pews. Shaking out the immobilizing guilt that prevented him from returning from exile, Felix returned back to his base and broke the bad news to Sven. However, the attack on his life by Watersheep influenced Felix, making him believe that Watersheep, and by extension his council, was corrupt. He did therefore proceed to murder the Council of Watersheep in cold blood and replace them with the Council of Beetroot, launching us headfirst into the next section of the series. Part 7. The Age of Beetroot. On his return to his base, Felix discovered that all of his pets, all of his friends except for one cat, were missing. He named this cat Sven the cat, as Felix initially mistook them for Sven. He started to insult this cat, and they just up and left for the nether. However, this would not be the last we saw of this cat, so don't forget him just yet. Felix then went and consulted the Council of Beetroot, asking them for guidance in finding his missing friends. The council first demanded a beet sacrifice from Felix. Thus he converted all of his farms into beetroot farms and made said sacrifice. In exchange, the council gave Felix a pet dolphin, who Felix named Flip-Flop. The council then commanded that Felix build Flip-Flop a roller coaster, and Felix did so, getting quite attached to Flip-Flop in the process. Naturally then, when the council commanded Felix to kill Flip-Flop, he refused.
Oh God. No. I don't care. Flip-Flop is my new best friend. I will never sacrifice him.
This enraged the council, and in their blind fury, they accidentally opened a tunnel in their temple. On entering this temple, Felix found a trapped chicken, who introduced himself as Feigi's cousin, Feigi. Feigi told Felix that the Council of Beetroot had held him hostage, and that there were others like him. Before he could elaborate, Felix was yanked out of the corridor by the Council of Beet and commanded to frick a creeper if he ever wanted to see his friends again. This command, which was definitely not Pew's playing up a popular fan meme at the time, was repeated multiple times, and it led to a solitary creeper named Ingvar, who was the only survivor of the ritual, being punished for the crimes of all the creepers. This was incidentally the episode where Felix accidentally set up a machine which would fill his compound with chicken. After the ritual was complete, the council told Felix that to find his friends, he would have to finish the new IKEA tower which he was building, and once he finished this deed, the council told him to blow up the old IKEA tower. Blindly following the council's orders, Felix almost blew up the old IKEA tower. However, as he finished placing in the TNT, he heard a bark. Then he heard a whinny. On further inspection, he found all of his pets trapped under IKEA tower. Joergen told him that the council had trapped them all there, seemingly hoping to have Felix blow them up with the old IKEA tower, propelling him into an age with only Beetroot as company, as a mindless servant to the council. As Felix tried to evacuate all of his pets from the blast zone, he turned and saw a Beetroot standing next to the redstone line, linked to the TNT. The episode ended with a cliffhanger, a huge explosion, with no view at all of the aftermath. Part 8. The Awakening. After this episode, Felix seemingly reversed time to before the explosion. It's unclear as to how this jump in time can be explained lore-wise, or even story-wise, but my current theory is that Watersheep wanted to give Felix a chance to redeem himself after he was enlightened to the Council of Beetroot's true intentions. Felix, seizing his second chance, immediately destroyed the Council of Beetroot, bringing their tyrannical reign to an end. It was also at around this time that Bengt was last seen walking near the edge of Felix's compound. He would then proceed to be lost until Felix would actively go looking for him again in an episode far, far into the future. But let's get back to now. Felix was then told by a random sheep that there was a way to resurrect the Council of Watersheep and atone for his previous sins again. And that was by performing a forbidden ritual. This ritual was, in fact, killing another sheep as sacrifice in the same way that the original water sheep was killed, and completing it summoned water sheep in one of his most powerful forms. However, this was a mere avatar of water sheep and obviously not the otherworldly deity himself. Defeating it would resummon the Council of Watersheep, and Felix did so, taking down Watersheep in an epic boss battle. The council reappeared, and for a while it seemed that all was good in the world. That is, however, until Felix built a TNT cannon and used it on a large population of innocent villagers. He had also previously done a video where he gave Sven, his dog, in a separate world, an AC-130 bomber, and he had bombed a village out of it. A survivor of this bombing somehow found his way into Felix's main world and questioned whether Felix was truly good to his face, enlightening him to the horror of his actions. Felix blamed the Council of Watersheep for corrupting his mind, and though he later accepted the Council's denial of any such actions, this was undeniably the first time seeds of mistrust were sown in Pew's mind. In the next episode, Pew temporarily lost Sven, and while looking for him, he found Sven the cat again. When he found Sven, however, Felix was influenced by a mysterious external force to breed Sven with his son, who he had named Deep. That's with 3 E's and in all caps, by the way. What do you mean the series is obviously descended into madness at this point? Deep makes sense as a name, okay? It's a cohesive story, literally. Let me elaborate. When Felix realized what he was done, he was stricken. He couldn't bear to kill a child of Sven, and instead named him Alabama. He asked the Council of Watersheep what to do with Alabama, and questioned as to why they didn't warn him before he bred him into existence. The council revealed that they had wanted Alabama to be created all along, which served as the final blow to Felix's loyalty to the council. Felix, unsure of what to do, gave Alabama the mantle of ruler of the Nether. This would later become a very lucrative position, as Felix, when exploring the next updates in Minecraft, would make many passages into the Nether and be forced to pay Alabama a toll for every time he entered the Nether. After dealing with Alabama for the time being, Felix decided that the Council of Watersheep was corrupt and that he shouldn't be governed by any other power. He built a TNT cannon and blew up the Church of Watersheep, killing the Council of Watersheep in the process. This action also seemingly removed a lot of Watersheep's power from the area, and Felix was now the all-powerful being he was at the start of the series. However, he did have restrictions on his powers, but I'll get to that in just a second. Part 9. The Dry Spell. After blowing up the Council of Watersheep, the series becomes extremely thin on story elements, as Felix concentrated more and more on exploring the new updates and less on the individual characters in his world. You could say that when he blew up Watersheep, it got dry. A recurring theme did, however, emerge in this final part of the series, insulting Sven the cat, similar to how Watersheep was once insulted. This has led to many fans speculating that if the series restarted with new stories and new lore, Sven the cat would play a similar role to that of Watersheep in the original. In the final episodes of this part of the series, we see many old faces return. First, Felix finally rescues Green IKEA Bird. That's right, you remember that green parrot he trapped all that time ago, promising to come and save him eventually? Well, Pewd started an expedition to the jungle and rescued Green IKEA Bird, and also kidnapped a panda, though that second part had some mishaps.
I'm sorry, but your friend has to die.
He then went on an expedition to find Bengt, who he had just realized was lost. Felix, desperate to find his long-lost pet, named an imposter Beint, that's B-E-I-N-T, not B-E-N-G-T, to try and appease his need for a fox. However, this could not satisfy Pewds. Stricken, he managed to use some sort of otherworldly power to reverse time. Now, whether this was Watersheep or some other godly entity taking pity on Felix, it is unclear. The current major theory is that with the destruction of the Council of Watersheep, Felix gained the ability to reverse time, but only in situations of dire need. Now, with this reverse in time, Felix managed to use his power to teleport Bengt to himself. He did, however, unfortunately lose the panda which he had got after said mishaps. Pewds then went on to embark on various other adventures, both into the Nether and to obtain bees for his base, but since these don't really relate to the story of the series, I won't be talking about them. After these adventures, in the last episode of the series, Felix fought the Wither once more, easily killing it this time with his upgraded netherite gear and a general better knowledge of the game all around. He used the nether star he obtained from this fight to make and place a beacon on top of his meatball. This was the last thing that PewDiePie did in his Minecraft world that the public knows of. Thus, the series ended, and though its effect on the internet as a whole are still being felt, especially on YouTube as a platform, it does not seem likely that it will return anytime soon, as Felix has said that he won't make another episode of the series until Mojang releases a new update of Minecraft, because he doesn't feel that there's much else for him to do besides explore. The sheer volume of the story and lore of this series is surprising, however, given that PewDiePie is not a Minecraft YouTuber in any sense of the phrase. It managed to draw in and enthrall millions of viewers from across the internet, and the fact that Felix managed to make the series interesting and also include a mostly cohesive story really speaks to his ability as a YouTuber. This is, however, the end of the video. Though it's pretty short, it took hours to research, script, and edit. And if you enjoyed it, I really appreciate it if you'd subscribe or even just share the video. You can always unsubscribe if you don't like my content, and it's free. If you like these historical documentary style videos, check out any of the videos that's in the card. They're shorter but just as fun. Anyway, I'll see you all later. Bye!